So the other thing is, oh yeah, the city DAO stuff. So that's pretty interesting. Um, and do you have a sense, Spencer, of kind of like how far along that is beyond just the conversation that we had?
Yeah, I mean, beyond like our group DM server, pretty much everything I know about it was from the City Down meeting that I came out of right before that, and I get the sense that it's still at like ideational stages. It seems like they're starting to get a foothold in terms of what kind of, I don't know, like research or discourse City DAO can produce. Like there's like basic educational content they're talking about, like an intro to Web3 for adults and then one for children as well. But in terms of how this is going to be structured as a university and what kind of curriculum they have in mind, they may already have documentation out there, but I'm just not like clued into it really.
Right. That's it. It's funny. It's like a recurring theme. Like, most stuff seems to be at like the ideation phase, which is cool because then, there's an opportunity to get a toehold and kind of help shape things. And then the stuff that's like beyond the ideation phase and is like kind of started to launch, it's like, oh, that's cool. That's not gonna work though for for what we want to do. Um, but like yeah, like I mean I think at this point it's like any collaboration that just helps bring people along, the from 0 to 1 thing, it just kind of feels like, why not, to me.
Yeah, especially if we're learning about people working towards similar ends. And I mean, it's something that I wonder what you're thinking about. This is the University of Wyoming connection. Is that something? I don't know if they have any blockchain programs, or actually I think so, because one of the people that the policy director of Wyoming mentioned, I believe, was someone who was I don't know, some kind of a blockchain professor at University of Wyoming, but I could be mistaken. I thought there was some figure mentioned that had something to do with blockchain and computer science at University of Wyoming. But is that an institution that may be interested in some of these things?
I haven't initiated that conversation yet. We did get or I got emails from the two guys. I guess you weren't on that call, but the guy I know from college and then another guy from the governor's office in Wyoming. They both sent like basically a list of emails to me of people to follow up with, which I haven't done yet, but is on my list for as soon as it gets to the top of my list. So I mean, yeah, I think so, and I think that was, I mean, when we were talking to the Wyoming people, that kind of seems like the most, aside from being connected with the legislators that actually wrote the DAO bill there in the state, and just kind of seeing where their head is at, that could be an interesting conversation once that gets rolling. The other thing that seemed to make sense to me for collaborating with the Wyoming people is, yeah, basically public awareness. Like I think that's kind of the one area where we would be aligned. If it were a less red state, I mean, they might have like all kinds of grant funds they could throw at us, but it being Wyoming, that's probably not going to happen. So yeah, I mean, I think so, and I think, and and City DAO obviously has that cool tie-in to Wyoming, and they're a very well established and I think pretty respected DAO. They're like one of the first ones that I spent any significant amount of time just cruising around the Discord. So yeah, I'm pretty excited to see where that collaboration grows. I mean, I would be interested in figuring out something to to teach, or like some kind of lectures. I think that's a good way to just kind of continue to grow like our network and our community by just kind of getting the concepts that we talk about like on these town halls and on Twitter, just continuing to get those in front of new audiences as much as possible. Sometimes it feels like that's the only thing I know how to do here. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think this kind of lends itself to the, if we plan on doing this in the form of Twitter Spaces, we have that interest form now. If we end up using that, it could be something like every X number of responses we get, we can try to coordinate some session, maybe on like a monthly basis or something like that, depending on how much interest we get. But maybe that could evolve into some kind of curriculum, or you know, we get a sense of what like a Web3 journalism 101 would need based on conversations with non-Web3 journalists. Maybe that could inform a curriculum eventually.
Right. Did we get any, so that you put the, I think the link to that, the survey that you put together, Spencer, went out in the newsletter this morning. I don't suppose anyone filled that out, or who would get the responses to that?
I mean, right now, I can share, I may have already shared it with you guys. I think I already shared it with you guys and Crystal. Yeah, so I shared edit access with you two and Crystal. I can share the link again right now so you can see it, but you can see when responses come in, and there's no responses so far, which I guess makes sense if it was just sent out in that newsletter and in our private channels. And then I guess as we're doing Twitter social hours, we can kind of advertise it there as well. Here. Okay. All right, just added it in the chat. Yeah, you can like change it around, add other questions. You can also see the responses in a spreadsheet format, which is helpful.
Yeah, awesome. I'll look like this.
Sweet.
Also, I mean, I know David mentioned this from CityDAO, but they're working with ArchiDAO as some kind of Web3 architecture course that they're going to be working with. I mean, maybe that's an interesting thing to watch. I don't know what stage that's at, but it could be interesting to watch how they go about building a curriculum, and maybe we can learn something from that as well, assuming this whole collaboration for education works out.
Well, here's the embarrassing question I didn't want to ask about that. I wasn't clear if they were talking about architecture, like physical buildings, or like network architecture.
I assumed it was architecture, largely because I think because that like buildings, because of like the metaverse stuff that CityDAO is doing, I think that kind of ties into their collaboration, although I'm not quite sure. I'm pretty sure ArchiDAO is actual architects.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, that question didn't even occur to me, so yeah.
That's what I would guess, yeah.
Well, I can keep plowing through this list, but I mean, what was on your guys' minds? Anything in particular?
I had some,
Yeah.
I had some stuff going into it, but I'm kind of now that I'm just kind of spiraling on this defense fund thing. But go ahead, Spencer.
I mean, I guess one idea is just using the public consultation sessions or education sessions, whatever we call them, just to get a sense of what a Web3 journalism 101 curriculum would need. And then maybe that could be something that we kind of crowdsource across JournoDAO. You know, maybe there's some way that we can each contribute certain like sections or something like that. Or, you know, I've never participated in building a curriculum, but it seems like that's something we could do.
It's funny. Like I'm not sure what. How to say this? I guess I'm not sure if the demand is there yet. Like I feel like I'm still not, like there's plenty of like crypto native people like that Woon Jun Ian guy, right? Like there's these like, you know, people who write for CoinDesk and Decrypt and you know, Web3 native writers who like primarily cover crypto, and there's plenty of them writing around. I mean, there's an entire Telegram group of about 1,000 of them. cryptocurrency writers, um, where I don't know if that is like the kind of people we want to be targeting, because the people who are basically more like me, who like I don't, I'm definitely coming from like a mainstream journalism background, and there's like just been a handful of other people that have like come from the same background as me and dropped in here and realized, wow, there's a lot of potential for this to do stuff other than write about crypto.
Yeah.
And I'm still not seeing more people like me, really. Because I think that's kind of the people that we're waiting to hear from to gather that data from, right? Or what do you think, Spencer, in terms of like, in terms of determining what's needed in a Web3 education for journalists? It's like the journalists still aren't popping up to tell us what they need to know. So I have to presume they know nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think maybe this could be a phase before any kind of curriculum is built. Like we're doing like kind of public consultation and outreach, gauging journalists' interest on this stuff, getting a sense of what a Web3 journalism 101 curriculum would need. And then maybe this can tie into our kind of credentializing idea, is that maybe once we meet some kind of critical mass interest threshold for a Web3 journalism 101 course, maybe we can have some kind of credential at the end of that course, and maybe that can indicate membership in JournoDAO in some capacity, or involvement with JournoDAO in some capacity, or some kind of credential that can be composed with a JournoDAO membership in some way. And it may also tie into the larger Web3 university idea of CityDAO. That could be approached, but like I agree. Like right now, there isn't like an interest threshold to like the demand is lacking, as you said. But I think
no, I'm all for every step of that roadmap that you described, but it's like it feels like we're kind of stuck at the starting line, and the first hurdle to get over is outreach. And so like I don't know if it's a matter of continuing to try and go out and like find people and try to bring people to us, or if it's, or maybe it's just you've just put the thing out there. And because I do think like, if you're a journalist and you come across like I titled the Twitter space tomorrow like, blockchain analysis for investigative journalism. Like if I'm an investigative journalist and like I don't know anything about blockchain, I'm still going to at least be a little curious about that. Yeah. Like if I come across that, and like I think just kind of like maybe just putting the stuff out there, and eventually, if it's there, then when more and more stories, start to hit the mainstream and more journalists decide to start Googling blockchain shit, then maybe our stuff is already there. Like I don't know what the right way to do it is. But that seems like it's the hurdle that I can't quite figure out.
Yeah, and I mean, and to a quick point to your idea about on-chain analysis and how it ties into with investigative journalism. I mean, it is interesting here because it's like we can crowdsource or decentralize what financial intelligence units are doing in terms of like notifying about suspicious activity and stuff. I mean, I'm sure even as Nick said, I think in one of these meetings that the exchanges are working with Chainalysis or whatever. I mean, I don't know if how much of that is verified, but I'd be surprised if that wasn't true in terms of user transaction activity that's associated with legal information and KYC and all that stuff. And like whether there's some threshold of an amount that warrants reporting to some government institution, but because it's all on public databases, this is stuff that to varying degrees anyone with the know-how can do. I think if we have some kind of a program built around training people for that could be that, and just the Web3 journalism 101 could be very easily construed as public goods. And so that could be another option for basing grants around those as like a curriculum, especially maybe once we have it finished, and then maybe the people who are taking the course to get some credential, maybe they pay up front. Although David in the City DAO Education Guild meeting said that they're also exploring some other, I don't know how established a method this is for education, but the model is instead of the students paying tuition up front, they get the education for free, but then the institution gets a portion of the income that the student gets after graduating. And then if the student doesn't get a job with this education, then they just have free education. I think we may not be able to start with something like that, but I think it's an interesting model to explore once we can keep track of who completed what course and then goes on to get some job by virtue of their completing that course. And I think it's really interesting.
I've seen that model come up a couple different places, and it's interesting. And then I also have another reaction to it where it's like, that also sounds like 21st century indentured servitude. But it's like the kind of thing where it's cool on a small scale, but it's the kind of thing where it can very quickly flip to where 20 years down the road, Web3 University, is like the size of Google and they own 1% of all humans' careers. It becomes like dystopian. But it's a fascinating thought experiment to think through. Maybe you could sunset that commission that the university is taking. And it's kind of funny. I've been in a couple other calls where this is being discussed. Let's say less than critically, and it's like it feels like there's some real blind spots there. But I think it's a fascinating model. I would be very interested to really dig into the implications of that.
Yeah, and to your point right there, I mean, it could be something where you just take the would-be tuition cost and just spread that out over some amount of percentage of income gained. So then it's just you're deferring the payment to later. And I guess that's kind of maybe just a different way of structuring that kind of debt, but maybe it's not. I don't know. I mean, I think I agree. We would need to think through it more.
Yeah, there's all kinds of innovative ways. Or you could maybe you get to earmark what programs your contribution goes to. Maybe you want to go to a certain scholarship fund or something like that. There's cool things you could do with that. On the education for mainstream thing, so this just Bloomberg just published a story on the OpenSea thing. So this strikes me as maybe an opportunity. Maybe when we're done here, I'll post a bunch of tweets about, hey, this OpenSea NFT guru is getting charged by the FBI. Maybe if you're interested, you should come to our Twitter space tomorrow on blockchain analysis. And so these kind of moments I think are potential onboarding opportunities for us. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's getting charged with insider trading.
Well, I don't know, maybe bringing what I was thinking about with what you guys were talking about, maybe onboarding and outreach could be more based around just a pure value proposition, the defense fund. And that got me thinking about health insurance. That got me thinking about Opolis, and maybe we could partner with Opolis to work out some sort of deal where we could actually at least in my estimation, journalists are some of the most trapped people. Once you get a steady job with health insurance or whatever, then it makes it really tough to get out there and move. I know when I was at Wired, so many people were super unhappy, but they're where would I go? It's so hard to find something comparable. So if we could try and show people that that is like a use case of Web3 right now that's like immediately useful to them, of like, look, incorporate yourself, get these group rates for health insurance and other benefits, and then you can just work wherever you want without having to feel like, as long as like you're getting paychecks, it doesn't matter if they're infrequent or whatever, you get a W-2. You don't have to worry about what sort of health insurance you're negotiating for like a salary job, or a lot of people take a salary job even though that's not really what they want.
So are you thinking JournoDAO could be like a Web3 journalist union where the actual journalists are kind of like journey people, especially if they have if they own and control the IP of what they're producing, assuming they have it all tokenized and it's under their name. Is that kind of what you're thinking for?
Well, I was thinking, since Opolis already kind of has this workflow worked out, we could just go to them and see if they're interested in like us trying to onboard journalists specifically. Because in my mind, I'm open to being off the mark on this, but in my mind, it's a huge win. Like, I would have jumped at something like Opolis, like back in the day when I was doing more freelance stuff. And I just think that's a very concrete thing that we could talk to people about, like get a W-2, get health insurance, no matter where you're working, and be an advocate for the freelance lifestyle, because that's kind of, we're suggesting like having independent infrastructure for the content that people are distributing. But part of that is like the independence of your own business, like in your own work and all of that stuff. It's all kind of tied together. So that's what I'm thinking.
What do you?
I'm looking at Opolis now. I just don't really know anything about it aside from, I think I saw one of you mention it before. But I mean, it looks interesting, and it looks like it's Web3.
Mm-hmm.
See, you mentioned tokens.
Yeah, it's basically a co-op, and they're doing ownership through their token, and yeah, it's a cool group, and they're really operating as a DAO, and I think that might make the light bulb tick on for people of like, when we're saying, well, why are you even excited about Web3 and it's all a scam or something? It's like, well, no, this is like a very well applied use case.
What do you think about including that in the Gitcoin campaign? That seems like the kind of thing that actually would do pretty well there.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it just depends on Opolis and their, because I wouldn't really want to reinvent it ourselves. Like, theoretically, we could like get enough journalists together to like negotiate all these benefits and stuff, but I'd prefer to just hand people over to Opolis.
Yeah, I would see the Gitcoin campaign being more about like probably funding outreach, than like outreach and education, and then we pass those people on to Opolis.
Opolis has done partnerships with Bankless DAO, and they've done I guess cross promotionals. And if you sign up for Opolis, you get 1,000 work tokens and 1,000 bank tokens, and that's how they've kind of managed these type of things. If you wanted to create some kind of JournoDAO specific Opolis initiative.
It's awesome. And hey, John, I wasn't looking at the script.
It's all right. Yeah,
awesome.
sorry.
Hear your name, hear your voice.
Yeah. And I'm on camera today. I'm not traveling and I'm not at work, and I'm done with my job. So I'm gonna have to probably use Opolis because I'm a full-time freelancer pretty much.
Congratulations.
Awesome. Yeah.
So I'll have to figure out how this whole freelancing thing works. I've never done it before. I've always just worked for somebody and received a paycheck. So I have no idea what I'm doing. So yeah, I'll probably lean pretty heavily on Opolis.
So what's your so I'm always fascinated with this sort of stuff. My first year of freelance was like 2006. I will tell you, the first year sucked. And then, it might be good to have, a line of credit handy. But although, I mean, you're actually better positioned than I was, but so like, I don't know, the key for me is like, you just find like the steady gigs, right? Where it's not like you're having to do like one-off $100 gigs all the time. What kind are you're doing like stuff for Bankless, and what kind of stuff are you looking for?
Yeah, I'm doing, Bankless DAO, Crypto Sapiens, and I got that job with the Compass Mining Company. But to start out, it's 20 hours a week contract work. Yeah, and once I completely take over this show that they launched, then I'll move into full-time work with them. So yeah, that's where it stands right now. I just uploaded to them the final render of the first episode for this morning's show, and I think it turned out very well. So
so you're in pretty good shape already.
yeah. And then my day job, they asked me to just kind of stay on as an advisor almost, for 20 hours a week with all my benefits still in place for about 60 days. So while I transition, so hey man, whatever, I'll take that. And that's the 20 hours and 20 hours. So that's 40 hours, but I better do something and figure out how this freelance things works in that 60-day window. So
Right on. So does the like 20 hours plus the other stuff to start, does that get you pretty close to your
yeah, it all equals out what I was making. So it's a total lateral move. So, and then that doesn't include the Bankless DAO and the Crypto Sapiens income I make. So yeah, okay, I'll take it.
And the whatever small amount might finally get fried away and sent to you from DAO Denver.
Yeah, and if I have to go out and mow lawns, I'll go out and mow lawns, whatever. Yeah.
Nice. That actually, yeah, I should have that business on the side. That sounds kind of nice.
Well, I don't know about New Mexico. How many lawns you'd be mowing there?
Well, yeah,
arranging rocks.
You'd be surprised at what people will spend to make grass grow in the desert.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I'd never underestimate that.
Yeah. Do you guys know anyone that actually uses Opolis?
I know a lot of the Bankless DAO folks do. I just never really, I guess, talked to them about it. So yeah.
I remember looking into it like when I was like brand new to Web3, so less than a year ago, and like I remember at the time like not really grasping it, like being totally green to like what does this token do? Like I'll have to go back and revisit it.
Yeah, the utility of that work token still kind of eludes me. I tried to talk about it one morning and I was just like, gah, just kind of verbatim reading from their website.
I don't think the token's kind of like a sideshow to what I think their main value is, where they just come up with this system where you just incorporate yourself as like an S corp, and then like you're the sole employee, and that unlocks your W-2 and everything, and then you just have to make sure that like whatever salary you tell them you have, you make sure that that money's in your bank account like every
yeah, the token's more for you governance voting than anything else, just determine the direction of Opolis.
Mhm.
I don't really have any desire to be going and poking around on the direction of Opolis, so.
Yeah, right.
I did have an idea about our token design. I don't know if you guys read that or checked out any of that recent Glenn Weil and Vitalik Buterin paper about soul-bound tokens and all that.
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting idea, and I kind of want to look deeper into what Moloch DAO is doing, because it may complement what they're doing in a very interesting way, where they have like refundable shares that are kind of fixed at a stable coin price. So that kind of lets members have some kind of exit right where they can kind of opt out of the DAO and kind of get back the stable coins that they paid. You can also make it so that if you want to exit, you get like 90% back, so that the treasury can grow a little bit more from doing this. But I think it's an interesting idea, and it seems like we're moving this direction in PubDAO as well, where at least how I'm understanding this, we may have, and I don't quite fully understand these token standards yet, but we may have an ERC 1155 be the base membership, like a non-fungible membership pass that's non-transferable or soul bound, but can be refunded. So you can get this for some fixed price of stable coins and maybe refund it for a 90% refund or something like that. And then having this membership pass would let you use the ERC20 governance token. So like not everyone can use that token, but it's like whitelisted to people that have the membership pass. And to get the membership pass, you would need to go through some kind of onboarding process. So in principle, that minimizes people just buying up a bunch of the governance token who don't care about the project and just kind of squatting or like kind of, holding hostage a lot of the governance power. And then also I think the reason we would do an ERC 1155 as the membership pass is because as I understand it, it can like hold other tokens, or you can compose it with other tokens. And so you can have ERC 721s that represent credentials, and those can go like inside or on top of the 1155. So you can have like a composable, non-transferable, refundable, non-fungible membership pass in a way that kind of can give you exit rights and let you do a lot of the stuff we're doing in a way that could also protect the DAO from like takeovers of people that don't really care about what the DAO is doing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like an inversion of the electoral college model. Where, because like with the electoral college, you would have like everyone votes, but then a small group decides basically what votes count or to actually cast. So this would be like there's settings that basically predetermined settings that decide if you can vote at all, right?
Yeah. It's like I think like the idea here, and I don't think there's a precedent for what exactly I'm describing here, but like the idea is that it depends on what the onboarding process is. Like for PubDAO, I'd like to have a process where like someone enters the Discord, goes through some kind of path selection thing, fills out some forms. We have like an onboarding registry where people put in what areas of crypto that they're interested in writing about, because right now it's all still written content geared around Web3 stuff. And so like you fill out this onboarding registry, maybe eventually we can have a membership agreement. Maybe that'll be built into the actual membership pass. And you kind of, by buying it and putting your signature on, on chain, maybe that's some that can be legally sufficient for accepting a membership pass somehow. But the idea is that someone would need to make it through this onboarding pass, which may even include an interview with an active member in order to get whitelisted to buy the membership pass. And then once you have the membership pass, you can actually use the ERC20 governance tokens, which would otherwise be circulating in secondary markets, but you wouldn't be able to use it if you don't have the membership pass. And so I think that could be a solution to like make sure that the people who have the governance power are like aligned with what the mission of the DAO is and have been kind of screened to some extent. But again, like I don't think there's precedent for something like this, especially if the membership passes are composable by ERC 721, credentials and stuff. But I think this could be.
Are soulbound tokens a specific NFT protocol? Is that, can it be either 1155 or 721 or is there a specific protocol for soulbound tokens specifically?
I think it could be any number of token standards, and so long as you can make it so that they're non-transferable, or at least maybe only transferable to like certain whitelisted addresses. Yeah. Although I think soulbound means non-transferable, period.
Yeah, they're one way, yeah. And the central, but that in a way, soulbound tokens to me are kind of a point of centralization, know, in which they are awarded.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I see the utility of them. It eliminates the idea of the greedy actor. In Vitalik's article, I mean, I sat there and read it on my morning show the other day.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And to make you have to earn killing the dragon rather than just buying the badge and say you did it, to make you, like for a 25-year-old to say that they went to a Kiss concert in 1979, like because they bought the ticket stub doesn't mean it's true, So.
And I think that's like a great point about this could introduce certain points of centralization, and that paper gets at it too. Like it said, what if there's some kind of authority or some kind of institution that's just gives out these non-transferable, non-burnable tokens that just kind of tar someone's reputation, and there's nothing really that person can do about it. I mean, I think one solution there is to make it non-transferable, but also burnable or refundable somehow, so that
so transferable by the authoritative entity, and then burnable by the receiver, and then as long as those two parts of it are in place, I think it's absolutely doable. But if you take one or the other away, it just doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like you can just, at least insofar as I understand this, like it seems like a straightforward thing to program in. It's just like, is the address one of these two addresses, either sender or receiver? And if not, then the transaction can't go through, or you can somehow word it so that that transaction can't happen if it's not like one of the two addresses somehow.
Yeah, and I think that's how it hooks into the existing standards. John, I think you're looking at Solidity stuff now. If you look at the 721 or the ERC20, you can really just like overwrite the transfer function and then just have it go nowhere or just do nothing, right? And then it's like soul bound. But then there's other ways, like you can still mint tokens and put them in a wallet. You can still like transferring just between like external peers or whatever.
Welcome, Jennifer, if you can hear us.
I'm sorry about this. I actually I missed the boat on the beginning of the meeting. So sorry.
No worries. We're just getting into the nitty gritty of tokens.
Endless nitty gritty, yeah. But and I also wonder if this kind of, if you pair this non-transferable pass, whether or not it's refundable, if you kind of whitelist people who have these to use a certain ERC20 governance token, I wonder if that would help disqualify that token as a security in some respect, because it's, I guess you could still sell it, but you wouldn't be able to actually use it unless you had one of these membership passes. And maybe that would, maybe that would just drive down demand for it, or maybe it would just drive up demand for the membership pass. But I think it's an interesting model to explore.
Yeah, I guess that depends.
I guess that depends on if the membership has any type of monetary value. Maybe you might not be able to transfer it, but are you being paid by having that membership?
Yeah,
I don't really know all the legal ramifications of it, but yeah.
And I think because that's another point. Like, does this entitle you to like profits or access to profit or something like that? What I'm thinking about for PubDAO, and this hasn't been decided yet, is that the actual membership pass is like, once you go through the onboarding process, you're whitelisted to buy this for say 50 USDC or 75 USDC or something. And then if you want to refund it, you can get maybe 90% of that back or 95% of it back or something, just so that there's a little bit of a cost to exit. But then it's something like, if you have this membership pass and you get a bunch of credentials and you complete a bunch of bounties or whatever, and you have ERC 721s as credentials that are kind of piled on your membership pass, and you have all these badges on this pass, then are you still just getting that kind of 90% of whatever you initially paid back for it? I think that would kind of, it would kind of make sense in a way, but I'm not quite sure if like the value of it should go up, but that might seem to break this whole refund model. I think the whole idea is that there's this partition of the treasury that's just kind of reserved for exit rights. I think that's the idea for this whole kind of refundable exit rights token.
Yeah, I think there's a lot there to borrow from if it works out. And I think as far as we're concerned, I think we're in a position where we can slow play it and find these other, like for some DAOs, it's like the immediate concern is just like, how do you get people paid for what they're doing, and like how do you keep people incentivized? But since we're just a bunch of people who are interested in doing this stuff, I think that's to our advantage, where we can like, slowly design like, okay, this is how we're going to do governance, and that doesn't have any impact on payment or rewards or anything. Like, let's just do that because that makes sense. And then, when we get clarity on, another piece of functionality that would be best served by a token, then we can just, isolate that use case too. I quickly went from like, oh, there shouldn't be more than one token for every DAO to like, oh yeah, there should be like a token just for like this specific use case and this specific use case, which is going to be annoying from the user's point of view, but then like you're going to need some abstractions on top of that, which will make it hopefully less painful.
Have you guys spoken to Rally? They kind of have a really interesting tokenomics platform, and yeah. And have you guys
a social media token?
I mean, they're I'm not sure if that's what they're calling it, but they're definitely, I mean, it's probably more social token oriented, but
yeah, that's what I meant to say. Social token, not social media token.
Yeah, no, and that's okay. But I mean, a lot of DAOs and different things that come forward on NFT projects are definitely, I don't know what labels, but they're yeah, sorry. I don't know where you started, and I don't want to interrupt the conversation or flow. I was just curious because I know that like I just went through a session with Rally to talk about tokenomics, and then I went through another session with Legal talking about DAOs, and I thought it was really interesting conversation. So I was wondering if any of you guys have had those kinds of conversations around DAOs and legalities and stuff because of the potential of securities. So it sounds like we're kind of all talking about that right now.
I mean, to your point about like legal discussions about DAOs, my only experience there is with LexDAO, where they have their public clinic, and then they have like a client come in for this public consultation where they walk you through this legal checklist. And it actually could be something that's helpful for us if we want to do that, so long as like we're aware that we're not going to be discussing information that needs to be too sensitive if it's a public session. But I mean, I'm wondering if you had any good takeaways from your DAO legal talk.
Mine, yeah. I'm in touch with a woman. She's part of this old women's group I'm in, and she was saying that like DAOs are really considered like partnerships, and like the whole thing about the potential for securities is really making the DAO legal, like that DAO structure, really interesting in terms of like. I think what I'll do is I'll see if it was recorded. Actually, it was recorded, and I'll see if I could get it, because there was some really interesting discussions around it, and it brought up anybody that's a holder and it's all about the way we use the language, the way we have to be very thoughtful in the way we talk about the language, so that like when securities conversations, which will come at some point, we don't get nailed, on it. So we have to be very thoughtful in the way we word things, is what she was saying. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I just thought I'm not educated enough to really pass that information on. Again, I thought you guys probably were more educated, because I'm not. But I just know it's a danger spot. So like, it's a great conversation to like get clear about the language.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be interested in hearing what she had to say about it. And I guess that makes sense. Like maybe we should be cautious about what I guess who can be considered from the outside like a lead person in a given DAO, like who could be thought of as some kind of like authority figure or like an active participant or someone who's driving the growth of a DAO, and then what they say, maybe like those people should be more conscientious about what is said, and then someone who's just more of a passive community member is maybe more free to make certain suggestions. I mean, I think a lot of it is uncharted, but I'd be interested to hear any insight.
Yeah, I'll get the recording, and then maybe and just it's I think it's just so interesting. Like we're in interesting times, so yeah.
Yeah, I've been doing the producing on this podcast called Ab Initio, and they're 4 episodes deep, but it's with the Legal Guild of Bankless DAO. And I mean, I don't know anything about being a lawyer, stuff like that, but I've been able to pick up some stuff that you might enjoy listening to it. Are you in the law profession?
Myself, no.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, but they talk quite a bit about regulations, what are considered securities and commodities, about the whole idea of DAOs, because even in places where DAOs are legal, like Wyoming, in Tennessee now, I believe, you still have to pin 1 or 2 people as the point of authority whenever you actually file for the license. Not so in Marshall Islands. You can actually file for a DAO as just as a DAO with no one particular individual in charge. But as far as here in the United States and everywhere else, you have to pin somebody's name on it.
Yeah. Well, so I didn't want to interrupt the flow. I know you guys are really getting into the way to make money here, the way to bring in money, not make money, but the way to fund this project and tokenomics and all that. I like the idea of NFTs and tokenomics without having to get into the legalities of DAO partnership stuff, because then you could get into a rabbit hole if we're not clear. But yeah, I mean, I think you can get away with it with some sort of stuff around NFTs and social tokens.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, you guys. You guys are
also crazy, yeah.
Well, that's why I think we kind of slow crawl up to it, and I feel like the governance token plan we have in place is good, and I feel super comfortable with the NFT plan, because whenever there's a analog in like the trad world or like the physical world, I think we're on pretty solid ground where it's just like memberships like for sale and like tradable on the market, those have been around, like those aren't securities, and these governance tokens aren't tradable or anything. Like they're just like video game scores basically. Like they're not going to do anything. So and that's like solves our immediate needs. So I'm feeling good about it, and then we can just see like hopefully some legal precedent is set sooner rather than later, and then there's clear guidance on it. But I would like to think about how like a profit sharing thing could work. Like if JournoDAO ever does bring in revenue and makes a profit, if we have like a nonprofit organization and a LLC or some type of B Corp, C Corp, or just how people get paid, how people reflect their ownership and their effort. I think it's all pretty interesting, and it's probably going to end up better than where we're at right now, where you just like get your salary or you don't, and then you only get a liquidity event if your company IPOs somehow. So
Spencer, you're part of PubDAO, right?
Yeah, I can answer.
And you're going to be doing sort of, I mean, I've been in there, so you're going to be paying the writers for contributing to, oh no, that's Sapien, sorry. They're doing the newspaper, and they're going to pay for each contributor that gets selected into their metaverse newspaper. They're going to pay like each writer or something with their
I think so. I think what I saw them mention was that the proceeds from the newspaper would be distributed among contributors to the newspaper, and that
Yeah,
they'd
so-
be selling the newspaper, I think, as like one big NFT. Although I'm still not quite sure exactly how they're doing that. If it's going to be like if you're buying an NFT that's like a subscription to it, or if you're buying it on like an issue by issue basis. But I think that they're splitting, however, whatever the profit model is, they're splitting the profits like among the contributors to the newspaper. Yeah.
Right. I think I'll have to catch up on like the beginning of this conversation, as I don't want to, I know you guys have already gone really deep in it.
No, I think you'll be disappointed. You came
Oh,
in,
really?
you came
Oh,
in with
God.
like the exactly you popped in as if you'd been here. It was yeah. We were just, Spencer was going over some different models for the different standards, and I think there's some interesting stuff in there, but we hadn't even like related it to JournoDAO at all, or mapped it onto anything we're doing. So
So
I
think
came in 10 minutes before you, so don't feel bad.
So what's a little working project that everybody can contribute to with their own unique talents, so that we can sort of move towards I feel like that's what is happening now. And I see Keith, you're doing a lot, and I Spencer, you're always, I just don't know. I haven't been able to contribute very much, and I'd like to contribute in some way. I just, is there like one little working project that can bring us closer to the next, if it's like a research paper or anything?
Yeah, I mean, there's the newsletter. I just finished reading through the recent newsletter that Keith and Crystal put together. So maybe there's like contribution opportunities there. And then also earlier in this call, we were also talking about what a Web3 journalism 101 curriculum could look like, and how like we may go about this initial phase of public consultations and trying to bring in non-Web3 journalists and see what kind of questions they have, and see where the kind of pain points are in terms of comprehension. Then we would kind of use that to inform or draft what the curriculum could look like. But like that could be something that like JournoDAO as a professional network can kind of collectively build a curriculum around this.
Yeah, because I'm seeing a lot of like pseudo broadcasters, media people from Web2 come in and pretend to be experts and start to, and then because they have like a little bit of a name or some cute, they actually are getting the stage. But when I listen to the conversations, I don't feel like, I feel like they're just using sort of that buzzy words just to kind of, and I think it'd be like, even if you started with one small thing that you know about, or two small things that you guys know about to create a curriculum, I think you could then chart the rest of it based on continued learnings. I never think you have to have it all down. You can just say you have it all down, and then you actually, because of the intelligence in this room, you know that people are going to be getting really more powerful conversations or learnings.
I mean, I'd be down to, read some kind of document that you would create on, journalism 101. I'm not a formal journalist. I've come up just by being enthusiastic about Web3. That's it. So I don't know the first thing about being a journalist. So it'd be cool to, learn from you guys who have that experience, what the standards are, what the I don't know, the etiquette is. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like what I'm seeing is like a lot of these media companies are seeing their content as super valuable, and they want to do NFT projects like we talked with Scott. But I don't actually, you start to dig into that rabbit hole of like, you got the photographer, then you've got like, whoever took the photos, you've got the content writers. And I mean, I don't even know where to get started in that. I feel like you have to go down the rabbit hole to figure out how you can actually even digitize and create something and then mint it and give people the credit. if you're going to go do NFTs. So I don't even know how to advise media companies right now. I mean, I think that's like a really basic thing that people really need to know. Like, how do you even, like, Mirror's doing stuff, but I don't even know what that looks like. Nobody's done a demo for me. I haven't seen a walkthrough of articles printed on Mirror, because I know they have a different system now of getting, contributors. So, I mean, I feel like we need to be introduced all together, like from the very basics.
Well, if you have a document that many people have collaborated on, is it true that with NFTs you would be able to give each of those collaborators, kind of get them baked into the code as part of that NFT, as giving them credit for it, and bake in their royalties as well if it's used elsewhere?
And that maybe Keith would know more, but at least from my knowledge, you may need a specialized token contract if you want to have multiple addresses kind of baked into it for like royalties and whatnot. But I don't know if that's something that like OpenSea lets you do. If they have some kind of user interface that lets you put in, like, divide up royalties among multiple wallets, or if you would need to create your own token standard for that. But yeah, I mean, this stuff is so composable. It's like you can kind of do almost anything, so long as
that is something that you can do that on Mirror. Mirror has something called splits, but then like you dig into Mirror and you start to find like other limitations to Mirror.
I mean, maybe we do an experiment and just like report on the experiment as we're doing it, and like that's how we learn.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, scientific method right there.
I mean, instead of our Twitter Spaces, I can be focus groups around our, how the experience of it. I mean, if you guys decided and you wanted to take a photograph from some, like Eric, maybe we start with an article that you published or have never published with a photographer that, and we say, well, let's make this an NFT or something like that. Let's like see what this really looks like and how the process and what it really takes. And maybe we walk through this sort of experiment, and through that learning, you end up building the right team, but you also like can share the, with the other Web2 people that are trying to do similar things. I don't know.
One thing that I put on my to-do list for this week was to like do a comparison, because there's Mirror, there's Papyrus, and then there is Headline, which is the new Unlock protocol publishing platform. So like I kind of had on my to-do list to do a comparison of these three Web3 publishing platforms, but it could be interesting to maybe just go ahead and use all three and report how that goes.
I would love to. I mean, if we actually got on the next call and we started, like, it was like called a work session, right? And we decided to be like aliens coming to planet Earth in Web3 in this time zone, and we decided to decide we need to learn how to do this one thing, like publish on the blockchain and make it an NFT or something. Like maybe that was like, the thing. Maybe we could like just do the experiment. Is it like possible? I mean, I don't know. We could talk about it forever, but what if we had this like experimental side of JournoDAO that doesn't have to be like building the DAO, but it's actually the lab where we go in there and we roll up our sleeves?
Yeah, I mean, that's stuff that we can kind of screen share here.
Sorry, Eric. It's just saying.
JournoDAO skunk works.
I mean, why not? Like everyone else is taking the piss out of things,
Well, Jennifer, what do you like doing, and what's your skill set? And I think Eric and I can try and take all the stuff that we know about going on and try and give you some. I mean, this sounds like great if you want to run with doing this experiment, but
no, it's okay. I want to jump on what you guys are doing, but I just definitely need to I need to see what I need to learn. I need to look under the, I need to learn how. I don't understand a lot of it. So what I'm really good at is like what I'm doing right now is I'm running a Discord for one company. I'm kind of pseudo launching an NFT with a guy that's like an NFT sort of guru dude. And I'm just doing it on like what I call story moments. It's called Mint My Moment. And it's just going to be like people's photos and things that they want to actually put on the blockchain. So we're going to do some experiment around that. Yeah, I'm just doing things like this, you know, maybe working with like a bank called XAPO to like help them understand the metaverse. So basically I'm just a consultant. And you know, my writing chops are very few and far between these days. So it's a lot of I'd say more community building and client building.
I mean, your idea about like experiments with these things, maybe it could tie into if we have like this interest form I just shared in the chat here. Shared one, a Google Doc for getting interest in public consultations that we do, but it could take the form of a Zoom call with a bunch of people, and we just walk through Mirror, or we walk through Headline or something. Someone shares their screen, and everyone can see what exactly is being done, and you know what it looks like, because maybe that kind of like the visual aspect of it could help, and you can't do that on Twitter Spaces. I mean, does that get at your idea about like this kind of experimentation sessions?
Well, I mean, I don't need to take over on any of the things that you guys are doing. I feel like you guys are like, you're onto something, you're doing it thoughtfully, and I don't want to jump in and just like, hey, let's just be active, let's just do something. Like you guys are already doing a lot of research and everything. I'm just popping in.
That's what we want, though.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like your idea here like really lends itself to these public consultation sessions and having like a visual element of like if that is something that we agree on. I mean, I like that idea.
I mean, we can treat ourselves like we're the client, and we're also, you know, solving the client's problem. So what are we trying to do really here? We're trying to figure out how to fund JournoDAO. Are we trying to buy a newspaper? So one of those problems that we want to solve, we can pretend like it's somebody else's problem, and then we can just go in without any risk and like start to just experiment. Like, let's just go down this train of solving that problem with Mirror. Or, you know, Eric is obviously, you were going to do some research, but doing that by yourself, maybe you like to do that, but that just sounds like a long night of whiskey. You know what I mean? Like a long night of whiskey, maybe even a whole weekend, not seeing your kids, you know? So like maybe we have a work session where somebody comes in that's pretty fluid in it, teaches us a little bit about it. And then we can sort of start to take the problem and see if we can solve it. I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, I think you're hitting on something that I've thought about, which is basically like, I just kind of want to go out and figure out how to do all these things that we've been talking about. So like in previous calls, I've talked about like trying to figure out how to like, you know, get my work onto like IPFS, or like get it, which is, you know, interplanetary file system. So like, so it's like truly decentralized publishing.
It just cut out for me. I don't know if anybody.
Yeah,
me
me too.
It's
Yeah.
the Wild West down there. Internet's few and far between.
So rather than working in silos, you know, maybe it's like the ability to actually come here and if it's researching the three publishing platforms, you know, maybe we can do a little work session where we kind of explore it a little bit together, and with the goal of getting his piece published, you know. And so then we could just see how that works.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be down to learn how to do that. I don't know how to engage with IPFS.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if Eric does, or if he's just gonna go down the rabbit hole.
I like the idea of something like a work session. Maybe we could just, I don't know, carve out an hour a week or something like that. And then whoever brings the task that everyone sounds like or thinks is a good idea, we could just hammer at it and brainstorm and just actually do some screen sharing and get our hands dirty.
Yeah, I mean, like you're talking about tokenomics and stuff, like maybe, well, yeah, you pick the priority one that, and then we all can learn from it as well. And maybe it is doing a little due diligence before and just kind of walking through it. But the knowledge in this group and the intelligence and thoughtfulness around this DAO, like somebody, like I just feel like we'd walk away with something way better than having somebody that doesn't care about anything, just like, oh, this is how you do it, then you just plug and play and then you go here. It's like, you know,
I mean, I really like the idea about these like workshops. I mean, it seems like what we're describing here, like workshops where like we can figure stuff out too, that we're not like 100% clear on, or like maybe like you said, there's a due diligence aspect, and there's someone who's leading the workshop or is, you know, sharing their screen, and then they do some due diligence just so that they're not just like fumbling in front of everyone. Maybe that would help. Yeah, like it seems like like you're describing a good like workshop session that they could help people that are already involved in this, and could even help journalists who are curious about Web3. If they like hop in one of these things and they see us like doing Web3 rather than just talk about it.
Right.
I think that could work a lot. Yeah.
well, then that becomes your course, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's kind of what I'm thinking it could tie into, but maybe that's not, it doesn't have to reduce down to that, you know. Yeah.
John, what do you think? You kind of do this with yourself sometimes, like you just start rolling and then try and figure something out. Would you be down to expand that to like a team effort? Or
Oh yeah, I mean, just yeah, I'm
Would
always
we
down
bring
for
in-
experimentation.
Yeah, I mean, would we bring someone that's kind of an expert in as a particular, like, let's say we don't, like, if we wanted to say, well, let's see if we can publish something on Mirror, and then maybe we bring in somebody that's already done it, or somebody that can actually just be a guest to kind of walk us through a little bit? Or do we want to do that, or just keep it in our own and figure it out ourselves? Because I mean, I wouldn't mind, like, okay, you guys, let's log in, you know, or let's figure this out, or what does it look like, and share your screen. Okay, what's being published? Oh, that's interesting. And then we kind of like do a little research together. Like, not
I've
very
never
good,
used
not-
Mirror. I think it'd be cool to see somebody actually go in and just create an article in there.
Yeah.
And watch them how they do it. And yeah, like you said, if you want to try it, you know, then I'll, you know, log on with you, and we can all watch, you know, you attempt it.
Yeah, that would probably be Eric. So I mean,
It's like a bunch of people, you know, standing around, one person working on a car engine.
how's you learn.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but I do see like some people on where are you guys doing that in PubDAO? Or are you doing, is that Sapien? Because I've like kind of exploring different publishing platforms to see who's actually doing what.
For PubDAO, what was the question for?
Who was, there's somebody in our group that's published, okay, to Mirror. Was it Kitty?
I mean, I would imagine at least one person in the JournoDAO server has used this public.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be great if they could do a little walkthrough.
Yeah, it might be Crystal. I mean, I'd also
Crystal.
Yeah,
Crystal has actually. I think she has actually.
And I mean, maybe Keith has too. I'm not sure, but I think so. Yeah, I'm wondering what that was that was published to Mirror.
She posted it in.
Hey, y'all, I got
It was a
hatchery meeting. I gotta hop. Take it easy. That's really good. I wanna jump in this when you guys do you know, take a swing at it. I've been wanting to learn IPFS forever. So
Yeah, that and mirror, I'd like
yeah,
to.
yeah, that too. All right, later, y'all.
Hi. So Spencer, so I know you guys have been on for a while. I wonder if we could do a little session where someone walks us through it, and maybe Eric, if he does a little research or whatever, like, and would this help us start to solve any or see new ideas, or like, what do you think the outcome is of it? I think it's actually helping other journalists on board as well.
Yeah, I think it could hit a few birds with one stone, and that's like I wonder if Keith feels the same way, or if Eric's ever going to get back onto this call if he feels the same way. It seems like these kind of workshop sessions that you're talking about could like help us figure out some of this stuff, could maybe demonstrate to Web3 curious journalists how to do this stuff. You know, like it gets us on the same page about techniques for journalism. And like, it seems like it kind of, and it could be worked into a curriculum perhaps. It seems like it could hit a few birds with one stone, the various ideas that we've been talking about.
Yeah. Are you guys, do you want to keep it within the group and just see who knows how to do it for now? Or do you want to bring a guest that might have some?
I think for something like Mirror, that seems simple enough that we can just have like maybe Crystal, or if like Keith, have you published anything on Mirror before? I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel comfortable that we can like hack our way through.
Okay.
Whatever, and then we could just I think we could cut it up just to be like, if there is some point where like we're just kind of like waiting for something to load or like some transaction to go through or whatever, then we can like cut that stuff out later so that it's just like a useful thing for somebody else to watch, but then we don't feel pressure to like rush to do this or whatever like in the moment. So yeah, I think that's a good idea.
And then this could be like a kind of proto curriculum kind of phase we do maybe, and maybe we can work this in with onboarding somehow. I think there's a couple interesting ideas here.
Yeah, because I've been trying to research it, and like there was an old model where you had to like do a certain amount of things to be able to publish in Mirror, and now there's a whole nother model, and like I don't understand any of it, but all I know is it would take someone smart to explain it to me. Keith.
People think I'm smart, where really I just have a tolerance. I have a tolerance for sitting there and just being like really confused about things for longer. And so I suffer through, and then I can usually just tell people like,
yeah, that'd be cool though, because I think it's something that a lot of people are very curious about. So
yeah, I think it's a great idea. We should just do it.
Okay, let's do it.
Have a regular thing, so then, you know, we don't have to make it about like, oh, we're going to do this and it's going to be part of this curriculum. But if we just do like an hour each week, we do what we do, and then we'll make something out of it later.
I mean, it would be great to, if anybody had an article that's ready to publish, and or Keith, if you do, or Eric does, if we signed in on his, we actually hit publish, if that's how it works, and we can actually see the thing published after, it'd be so cool.
Yeah.
And same with like a tokenomic thing, like, or any other thing that we try to adventure into. I think you have to be careful with obviously the legalities of stuff. So it's not like something you can just jump into, but we can just experiment with like when I do this story, when I actually do the story moment and I turn it into an NFT, and then I mint it and put it on OpenSea, I'll record it. And then you guys can see what I did, because I'm going to be using people's photos to do an illustration, and then, you know, creating this little moment for them and then minting it for them. So I don't know how to do any of that, but I have someone helping me just to figure. I just want to do something, you know. So I can go, you know, Yeah.
Would we want
Parking
to?
lot.
Would we want to schedule like a different time for this, or would we want to maybe use these town halls and have like a like once we get through the agenda, maybe we can have like a half hour reserved for a little like workshop or something, or would it be better to have a separate event for this?
I think
I
it
think
separate would be good because the
Yeah.
town halls are just. I think we always have more to talk about than we think we do for the town halls. So I don't want to overload the time. But yeah,
and then you could record it from start to finish so that it's a clean cut and it doesn't like bleed into it. It can be like intentional
yeah, that sounds good.
because whatever the findings are, the learnings, then you can actually go on Twitter Spaces and we can talk about it with other people.
Because I mean, like in very broadly, for at least the perspective I have here is that according to how I see JournoDAO shaping up, it seems like the backbone to it is this professional network and how it can be an incubator for projects. It can be like a communal kind of workshop where we're, sharing techniques and expertise and stuff. Maybe eventually it could have courses taught. And it seems like it all kind of seems grounded in this professional network.
Mm-hmm.
Or like sharing connections, sharing insights, stuff like that.
It may become a publication, who knows? Because like if you guys are printing out, like if you guys are learning how to post and you're posting on these publishing networks, then it could be like, yeah, I don't really know. The creativity comes from, I think, doing, and I think also the mind, but I think you have to have a combination of both. And I know you guys are doing a lot, so I'll try to contribute every way I can.
I think you're right to just we just get in there and start doing stuff, and then it'll kind of take on its own momentum. I got to drop off here, but should we set either I can or Jennifer, do you want to send around like a lettuce meet or whatever tool you want to use to try and like schedule the first work session, maybe like early next week or something?
Yeah, that sounds good. I'll ask Eric what he's going to do about about his publishing thing, like if it's what he wants, what would help him actually as well, and yourself. I think it'd be Mira, right? And then okay. All right. I'll get on it.
Yeah, but even if Eric doesn't have something, I think if we just find a time that works, then I could even come up with stuff that we could go through, or we could just do like a AMA, and I don't know, I'm not an expert, but I can like answer basic questions about how stuff works and whatever.
Yeah. Cool. I mean, because I definitely would like to know like what the criteria is for an article that would be interesting to be published on Mirror, and that's even like the beginning. So, okay. Sounds good.
All right. Thanks, y'all.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Hear you tomorrow on the Twitter space, maybe.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I'll put it in my calendar now.
Okay. All right. Have a good rest of the day.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.